Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something super exciting. We're reverse engineering the hustle and the absolute superpowers of one of the world's greatest investors, Warren Buffett. We're going to see exactly how his singular obsession with data, value, and one very specific financial mechanism completely shaped the massive empire that is Berkshire Hathaway. Let's get right into it.
All right, let's kick things off with a pretty wild contrast. You'd probably assume a guy with a net worth of over $82 billion wakes up to a private chef, right? Well, not exactly. Despite that unbelievable wealth, Warren Buffett's breakfast usually costs exactly $3.17. I know it's a hard number to wrap your head around when you factor in his billions, but honestly, it tells us everything we need to know about how his brain works.
He literally has his wife count out his exact change for the McDonald's drive-thru every single morning. While he's shaving, he gives her one of three exact figures, she drops it into a little cup for his car, and off he goes. And here's the absolute kicker. He's actually known to favor the cheaper breakfast options on days when the stock market is down.
This just brilliantly illustrates his relentless practicality. Looking at these three options, the two sausage patties, the sausage, egg, and cheese, or the big splurge on the bacon, egg, and cheese at $3.17, it shows a guy who values pure utility above literally everything else. What makes this even crazier? He actually holds a McDonald's Gold Card, meaning he could eat for free at any location in Omaha, yet he still runs this incredibly precise cash routine.
And when people ask him about his diet, which famously includes 5 Cokes a day and ice cream, he humorously claims he eats this way because he actually went out and researched death rates. He found that the absolute lowest death rate is among 6-year-olds, so he simply decided to eat like a 6-year-old. It's a joke, obviously, but it proves a bigger point. He is always looking at the data to make his decisions.
Now, to truly understand the billionaire and how he eventually discovered his ultimate financial superpower, we have to rewind. We've got to trace this exact same obsessive, number-crunching energy all the way back to his childhood. This wasn't something he just randomly picked up in his 40s. He was hardwired this way from the very start.
Just look at how this hustle compounds over time. At barely 6 years old, he's already outselling chewing gum, stamps, and Coca-Cola door to door. By 13, he's pulling in $2,000 as a Washington Post paperboy. And by 17, he had amassed the equivalent of $53,000 selling and servicing pinball machines. From a little kid selling gum to a teenager with serious capital, he channeled every ounce of his energy into one single goal: making money.
But his true wealth explosion, the one that would completely define his entire career, kicked off when he stumbled upon a company called Government Employees Insurance Company. Of course, you know them today as Geico.
Picture this, it's 1950. A 20-year-old Buffett is a student at Columbia University. He starts tracking down Geico, specifically because his professor and mentor, the legendary Ben Graham, happened to be listed as the company's chairman. Buffett was so blown away by the business model that he ended up writing a report on it for a financial publication, confidently calling it the security I like best.
So how exactly did he get the scoop for that column? He literally hopped on a train to Washington, D.C. on a Saturday in January, found the Geico headquarters totally locked up, and just pounded on the door until a janitor finally let him in. He was pointed up to the 6th floor, where he bumped into executive Lorimer Davidson. And Davidson ended up giving this completely unknown college kid a life-changing 4-hour masterclass on the entire insurance industry.
In those 4 hours, Buffett uncovered Geico's massive competitive edge. By bypassing commission insurance salesmen and selling directly to customers through the mail, their operating costs were shockingly lower than giants like Allstate or State Farm. And because they were targeting safe driving government employees, they could actually offer discounts of 30 to 40%. It was an absolutely brilliant low-cost advantage.
So Buffett excitedly buys in, right? He dumps 65% of his entire net worth into Geico stock. But then he regretfully sells it all in 1952 for a tiny profit to go buy something else. Big mistake. He had to watch from the sidelines for the next 20 years as Geico's stock grew enormously. But then, unbridled growth and some really terrible management decisions brought the company to the brink of total destruction by the 1970s.
I mean, just look at the sheer terror of this chart. Notice this massive, soaring peak and then that utterly devastating valley. Geico had started expanding their clientele to much higher-risk drivers and completely underestimated the reserves they'd need. This catastrophic underwriting, meaning they just totally mispriced the risk of these new drivers, caused Geico shares to crash from $61 all the way down to a mere $2. Bankruptcy was a very real threat, and the insurance commissioner was literally ready to shut them down.
Enter the new turnaround CEO, John Byrne. Buffett tried to set up a meeting with him to pitch a rescue plan, But Byrne flat out refused. He actually asked, "Who's Buffett?" It ultimately took a phone call from that exact same executive Buffett met years earlier, Lorimer Davidson, who pretty much cursed Byrne out and forced him to take a late-night meeting in Georgetown. And that meeting, it changed financial history forever.
Byrne laid out his absolutely rootless survival plan, which he titled Operation Bootstrap. We're talking firing 4,000 employees, closing 100 offices, pulling out of entire markets like Massachusetts and New Jersey, and instantly hiking rates up by 40%. Buffett was so incredibly impressed by this brutal efficiency that the very next morning he started buying up stock again, eventually pouring $19 million in at rock-bottom prices.
Over the next 2 decades, Geico made a spectacular comeback. By 1995, Buffett stepped up and bought the remaining 49% of the company for $2.3 billion. But here's the secret. He wasn't just buying it for standard underwriting profits. He bought Geico to fully unlock his ultimate long-term financial superpower, float.
So, what exactly is float? Simply put, it's the money an insurance company collects in premiums today, but doesn't actually have to pay out in claims until tomorrow, next month, or maybe even next year. While they hold on to that money, they get to invest it. It acts as this incredible negative cost leverage, supercharging an investor's ability to buy up other companies using funds that don't even belong to them.
See, Buffett has these 3 golden rules of profitability for any business. 1, what the assets earn. 2, what the liabilities cost. And 3, how you utilize leverage. Float perfectly satisfies all 3. It gives you massive leverage, and because Geico was run so efficiently, the liabilities, the actual cost of holding that float, costs less than nothing. Thanks to their premiums, Geico was literally getting paid by their customers to hold and invest billions of dollars. By taking full control of Geico back in 1995, Berkshire Hathaway instantly gained access to a staggering $3 billion in float. Basically, $3 billion of free money to fuel their investments into other phenomenal companies. This mechanism, paired with Buffett's razor-sharp value investing, is what truly rocketed his net worth into the tens of billions. It really all stems from an obsessive dedication to finding value, really understanding the data, and relentlessly seeking out that negative cost leverage. So, I want to leave you with this thought. The next time you're grabbing breakfast, whether it costs $3.17 or not, ask yourself, how can you build your own version of float to fuel your future? What leverage are you using to compound your own success? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking for that hidden value.